Morning, everybody. Alcohol and obsessive compulsive disorder, and how to stop the thoughts. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I never thought I had OCD, but hold on one second. Sorry about that, folks. I got my volume on. There we go. We're all good. But OCD, I never thought I had OCD. But when I look back on it, and the longer I've been sober, the more I realize I had OCD. I mean, alcoholism by definition is kind of OCD. It's an obsession of the mind and a compulsion of the body. So, obsessive compulsive disorder, and that's the way I was. When I was in the height of my drinking, all I did was think about how I could get alcohol. Did I have enough alcohol? And could I hide it from people successfully? I didn't want them to find out. That was what my top priority in life was. It was that simple. And OCD can come out in many different ways, as well as like the hiding of the alcohol. Like I would keep the house super clean. I thought that would, people would think that my life is all in order, or I'd try and do the best job I could at work and things like that until I couldn't. And there's a definite relationship between alcohol abuse and obsessive compulsive disorder. I mean, they go hand in hand with many people. Not everybody, but many people. And for me, that was definitely the case. And if you guys have experienced this, let me know. Let us know on this on the comments, and let us know what your experience with this is. Definitely. And before we keep going, I'd like to say good morning to everybody, and thanks for being here. And Derek's always good to see you. Doug, welcome. 16 days sober. That is awesome. 16 days may seem like a lot, may not seem like a lot. It's one day, one hour for me was incredible. I couldn't stay sober at all, and now I'm able to, and everybody can. So bonjour, Donna. Good to see you, and June, and Julie, and Richard, and let's see, Gareth. Right on.
All right,
And
cool.
Cormac O'Neill, good to see you, man. Awesome.
Uh,
10 days, that's cool. 10 days is
Absolutely.
awesome. Not just at 10 days, you have 10 days. That's incredible. So good job. But
Absolutely.
OCD, oh, go ahead, Marcus. You
Yeah,
sound like you want to say
yeah, I
something.
was just going to chime in and talk about the obsessive compulsive thoughts and how I deal with them.
Yep.
They were something that I had before I started drinking, and something during drinking that really had exacerbated the condition. And then something that I deal with still to this day is those thoughts that you just can't seem to get rid of, whether they're bad thoughts, whether they're just annoying thoughts, like locking a door 1,000 times, or like someone said, choosing the wine bottle by the amount that's in there if it's a minute level above. Different things like this can really get into our mind and affect the way that we live. And a lot of times, what our society focuses on is how to fight them. How do you fight obsessive compulsive thoughts? And the secret is that you don't fight them. You just realize that they're chemical impulses in the brain, and they're just
Yep.
firing off neurons and making different words based on patterns and everything like that. And they're not really real. We don't have to take them seriously. We don't have to look at a thought as good or bad. We could just look at it as that's a chemical impulse in the brain. If anyone went through life the way I went through life and dealt with the things that I dealt with, they would have the same intrusive thoughts that I have. It's not partial to who you are. It's not partial, or it doesn't say anything about who you are. It's only the action that you take on the thoughts that can be dangerous. Case in point, when we're dealing with drinking, I could obsess about drinking all day long. I could have cravings about drinking all day long. I've had days where that's all I do is think about drinking. And I've also had days like that where I don't drink. And so thinking about drinking, you think about it, and a lot of people get really obsessed and down on themselves about having cravings or thoughts about drinking. But that's naturally what an alcoholic's going to do. Like if you go to work at a factory, you're going to be thinking about that factory even when you're not at work. It's going to be in your brain. You're going to start to look at patterns as if they are part of the factory. Or in my case, I learned marketing, and now I look at everything in terms of marketing. It drives everyone nuts. But that's what I train my brain to do. So where you're at in your life right now is where you're supposed to be with your thoughts. This is where they come from. It's natural. It's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with the way you are. It's nothing bad. It just is what it is. And it's funny because oftentimes we'll watch a bunch of movies or something like that. Or recently, I've been following a lot of stuff in the news about what's going on in Wisconsin, I think it is. And, my thoughts tend to be more about that stuff when I consume more of that content, or if I watch a certain show like about time travel or philosophy or something, I start to think about those things during the day. And what's happening is your mind is working on autopilot. And it's said by experts that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. And it's really crazy because we look at it and we're judging such a small minute of thoughts, right? We're not judging the thought like, oh, I'm hungry or I'm tired or I'm sleepy or whatever. We're judging the thoughts based on what we think or what fires off in the brain. And if we accept ourselves as basically evolved animals, I mean, you could take a spiritual side to that or non-spiritual. It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is we are kind of like evolved animals. I mean, we think and feel and behave like, animalistic when we're hungry and things like that. And when we accept ourselves as not these perfect godlike beings, if we just accept ourselves as, hey, I'm one of 8 billion people, I got flaws, I got issues, that's what happens. And so we look at it and we're like, okay, how then can I deal with these? Well, I think the way to deal with them is just to realize that they're there. First, acknowledge it. Okay,
Yep.
got these thoughts. Second, don't judge it. Doesn't mean I'm bad or good. It just means I have these thoughts. And third, just accept what is. And the funny thing about it is once you start to accept what is, the thoughts start to go away. They start to subside because you're no longer fighting them. And it's very important. It's like having that nagging relative who always wants to start a fight with you, and they call you up and they talk and talk and talk and try to get you to fight. But if you sit there and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to talk about this issue anymore. I don't think it's necessary. And they keep trying and they keep trying. Pretty soon they're going to stop trying. And that's how intrusive thoughts work, is they're going to stop trying when you stop paying attention to them. So if you have any thoughts with this, Gary says he's battled with addiction. He's trying to resolve these things. Whatever your thoughts are, whatever you're dealing with, let us know in the comments so we can try to give you some insight into how we've dealt with them. I know that my OCD has been very severe at times, almost debilitating. And now I just realize, hey, doesn't matter. Kelly says the intrusive thoughts are the worst, combined with the apparent amnesia as far as lessons from the past. Absolutely. And that's one thing that the alcoholic deals with big time, is not being able to put together what happened the night before or the day before or the month before or your entire drinking fog. We tend to obsess about things and try to fit everything together. And what OCD really is about is it's about controlling our environment. It's like the cousin of anxiety. Right? We're trying to control every little bit we can so that we feel like we're in charge.
Exactly. Yeah. And you said accepting it. And that's one of the biggest keys, is just accepting it. And that's where people talk about alcohol addiction and just accepting that you're an alcoholic, but accepting the fact that obsession happens. The obsession with the alcohol or the obsession with something else, locking the door 1,000 times to make sure it's locked. It's okay. That stuff's all right. It's hard to just say, let it go, but that's what we have to do, is just let it go and move on. It's all right. We are who we are, and that's okay. But we add alcohol on top of that, and then the first feeling that alcohol gives, or at least gave me, was that feeling of that obsession going away, the obsession of whatever I was obsessed with at the time, even if it was just of getting alcohol. I have that drink, it goes away. But the problem is the next day you sober up and it comes back worse, because maybe I was drinking just to feel good because I'm addicted, but as well I was drinking to hide some of those feelings of the stuff that I need to be doing to be responsible in life or take care of things. And instead I got drunk. And the next day, those things I should have done yesterday, now I'm in trouble because I didn't do them. And then I'm getting even more obsessed, and the anxiety's going even higher. Oh, thanks. Thanks for the nice shirt, Armando. Appreciate it. But yeah, that's the obsession it's sometimes debilitating, and I've had it debilitating as well. And that was mostly over my obsession with the alcohol. I didn't have huge obsessive behaviors before alcohol became a big part of my life. But, I think they're there with most people in some sort of a sense. And with me, that's definitely the case as well. I was obsessed with exercise. I remember I studied the martial arts, and what did I do? I'd do it 2 hours a day, every day. I'd work out until I basically couldn't stand anymore. I was doing full contact fighting, but I wasn't good enough, so I'd fight all the time. I've destroyed my wrists because of the obsession of the fact that I didn't want to get beat, and so I just go and go and go until it would I'd hurt myself, and those are some of the things that we can get obsessed with. And yeah, it's a difficult thing to work with, but we can do it. And sobriety is the first thing, stopping drinking, because that just gets that merry-go-round going. We just spin and spin and spin, and it slowly spins right down the drain. And there's nothing we can do about it. Quitting drinking is the first step, definitely, to start to control these thoughts, but they're not going to go away. They're going to keep going, and that's okay. And that's, I have to deal with that now, but it's so much easier to deal with now, especially since I've learned with some tools to deal with them. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we are talking about. Like, some of the things I do are like, I stay busy, and I have other things that I do, that sober activities that I do. I just rescued a dog. Talk about obsessive compulsive behavior. This dog was abused before his first 2.5 years of his life. And he's obsessed, definitely. And it's something I have to work on. And he's going to teach me a lot over this next year of me trying to get him to open up and stuff. But yeah, so good comments. Lots of people talking.
Yep.
It's good
David
to see.
says, do we obsess before or after alcohol? Both.
Yeah.
I think obsessive compulsive is really about control and about not living in the now. A lot of us alcoholics and people that struggle with this stuff, we have a really hard time living now. We have a really hard time just being. I remember when I was drinking, I would either have to drink, I'd have to read, I'd have to listen to something, I'd have to talk to someone, I'd have to work on something. I couldn't just sit and relax. I mean, even when I was watching a movie or something, my mind was going a mile a minute in the opposite direction. And, I chalked it off as, well, I must be really smart, right? That's got to be it, a little bit of narcissism there. And I realized that, it's just the way that my brain was trained. And it's just the way that I'm reacting, and I can just be. I can just sit here and I could not pay attention to every thought. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean you have to chew on it. You could just let it pass, because thoughts are like rivers, and if we were to look at a river going by, the thoughts are going to go by, and it's up to you to choose what you want to pick on and pick up and dwell on. Right? We don't have to pick up and dwell on anything, and it's funny if you realize the thoughts that you are constantly picking up and dwelling on are often the same kind of things. Maybe it's over an injustice that was done to you. Maybe it's over your drinking. Maybe it's over work. Whatever it is, we just look at it. And like Kelly says, you just laugh at the crazy thoughts. Yeah, you just say, whatever, that's what happens. That's, have an overactive brain, and we now have a bazillion words in the English language or whatever language you speak, and your brain's just firing off a bunch of stuff. And some of us have overactive brains. And, we look at anxiety and OCD, and we never attribute it to chemical. We just think these thoughts are like spiritual and part of us, and something we have to live with and whatever, or something we have to fight. When in actuality, like, you want OCD, drink a bunch of coffee. It's gonna fire it up. Lack of sleep, it's gonna fire it up. It's the same as anxiety. And what happens is the chemical makeup of our brain changes our ability to realize that we think a certain way. And this is something we talk about on this channel a lot, where we talk about the difference between the working of your mind, right? The way your mind works is OCD. That's it, plain and simple. And it's not that bad. Like, you wouldn't mind if you obsessed over things you actually liked. But the fact is there's things you don't like. And so what happens is you get away from the working of the mind. Your mind's going to work a certain way no matter what. It's just the way it works. That's it, right? Like, if you have brain damage or something, it's going to work a different way. If you take drugs, it's going to work a different way. If you drink coffee, it's going to work a different way. If you were abused, it's going to work a different way. And now you're here and you're living with this way that your mind works. But the problem is you're blaming the content, right? You're going throughout life and you're like, okay, well, no, this is about the fact that I think about this. This is what it's about. I have a problem with locking the door. No, you don't. You have a brain that works a certain way, and right now it's choosing to use the locking of the door as an example. But if you accept it and say, this is the way my brain works, then you just relax and you say, well, it doesn't matter what I give it. It's going to catch on fire. It's going to have those thoughts. It's going to go. It's going to ruminate. People who are depressive, and this is a great quote by Alan Watts. Alan Watts said, you can find anything to worry about if you're the worrying type.
Yeah.
You can always find something to worry about. I don't care. Like, people sit here and they tell me, Marcus, no, if I won the lotto, I wouldn't worry about money. Yes, you would. You'd worry about losing what you just got. You'd worry about investing what you just got. It might not be the same kind of worry, but worry is the problem. The content is not the problem. The content is just filler. It's chatter in the brain. It's going and going and going. And once we realize, hey, you know what? This is the way my mind works. I'm just going to relax and let it do its thing. It doesn't mean I need to overanalyze everything. It doesn't mean I need to obsess about it. It doesn't mean I need this or that or this or that. It just means that's the way it is, right? Like, you look at super smart people, right? They don't sit there and hate the way their brain works. They just accept it as what it is, and they do smart stuff. Hopefully, some of them do, right? And for us with OCD, it's like, that's just the way my mind works. And once you start to accept that and realize it, it really diffuses a lot of what happens. Like Gareth says, you create neural pathways in the brain, hence the thinking patterns. Exactly.
Yes.
And your brain's going to take the easy route. Our brains are lazy. They want to take the easy route. They want to sit there and say, well, you want to get rid of thoughts, then drink. And that used to be the only way I knew how to get rid of thoughts. But then I realized there's a better way, because drinking didn't really get rid of them. It actually made them worse. What got rid of them was accepting they're there. Big deal. What next? And now I can sit and be calm.
Yeah. Richard, I'm sorry for your loss, Richard. You said that my stepmother passed away about 2 weeks ago. I've stopped exercising and eating right because I don't have the motivation. I'm noticing a huge change in how my mind works. And, losing my dog is not the same as losing a stepmother, but it was still equally painful for me, about a month ago. And I felt the same way. And I was obsessing over the loss of the dog. And, I really had to concentrate on remembering what the dog gave to me throughout its life, and the fact that I had rescued him and that he was a great dog and all that. And I've really focused on the positive. And yeah, I was the same thing. I mean, I ride my bicycle just about every day, and I didn't want to do any of that crap. I had no motivation, and I too felt the change in how my mind was working. And you know what? After about a week, I got back on the bike. Did I go on the massive ride? No, I just took a little bit at a time, and that's what I did. And I think that's what a lot of dealing with the OCD is. Just take things, you let them go. You take these things in moderation, except alcohol. I can't drink any alcohol because then that's going to just fire up that OCD right away. But the rest of life, I need to take it in moderation. Take it easy. You hear that in a lot of recovery places. And speaking of that, I was thinking, even in recovery, you see OCD. You see people that'll come in and some people need it. I'm not knocking them, but maybe they'll be going to 5-8 meetings a day, and maybe they're doing that just because they don't have anywhere else to go and they're trying to stay sober, and that's okay. But they may be obsessing about their higher power, or obsessing about something else in their life, that they got to fix these problems right away. And for me, it's a matter of doing these things, but doing them in moderation, so that I'm not just focusing all on one thing. And for me, it's a balance in life, and that's where I get that serenity. And I tend to not obsess over things. Is an equal balance of things. taking care of things one at a time, but taking care of several things throughout the day. If I obsess over one thing, like let's say I'm going to go on the 60, 70-mile bike ride every day, I'm not going to get anything else done. I'm going to start obsessing on this other stuff that I have to take care of. And the fact that I'm not around my family because I'm on the bike all the time, all that stuff. So I got to take it in moderation, not obsess over this stuff. And Marcus talks about, and I'm sure he will, about his obsession with earning money when he was drinking. And that was a big thing. It took him away from his family, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, for the guy who lost his stepmother, allow yourself time to grieve.
Yep.
I think what happens in our society is we're postponing and elongating everything rather than just dealing with it. Just be like,
Right.
hey, you know what? Yeah, I lost someone I love, and that's sad. But I also got a lot of time with them, and I also got a lot with them, and this is a natural part of life. And it's okay to be sad for a time. It's okay to be a little unmotivated for a time. And, we so badly want to get back to perfect and okay that we neglect what we actually need. And it's funny because in sobriety, a lot of us, we get sober and we expect like the world to change overnight. And the world doesn't change. Actually, I found out one of the things that I found out in rehab was that I was locked away in a rehab for 30 days and the world didn't fall apart without me in it. And that was a major awakening because I thought I made the world go round. I thought I was all important. And what I realized is that when I got out of rehab, there was no magic committee that was there to keep me sober. There was no magic, miraculous stuff that happened in my life. I didn't get all my wildest dreams come true after I quit drinking. No. Actually, it was a grieving process. I had to grieve what my alcoholic self was about, and that part of me is now gone. And I had to grieve the things I did, and I had to grieve the things I didn't do, and the havoc that I wreaked on life. And instead of, when most people get into this, instead of actually accepting it, they try to fight it. And they're like, I'm going to get this old stuff back. And what I did for about 6 or 8 months when I got sober, I just took it easy. I didn't work a lot. I didn't struggle. I just was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on being. I'm going to focus on being okay. I just spent, 6 years being a maniac drunk. I think I need to chill, and I think I need to deal with this. And when you lose a loved one or you lose a job or whatever it is, allow yourself time to miss it and to be okay. And forgive yourself for feeling what you need to feel. Like It's normal. That is normal human stuff. It's not anything weird. It's not a downfall. But, be like the Zen teachers say, when hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. When sad, be sad. Don't think about all these other things. And the problem is that we think of all these other things. And it reminds me of this story where there's these two Buddhist monk people. And they're walking, and they come to this river. And there's this lady that needs to get to the other side of the river, but she can't get to the other side because she can't swim or whatever reason. And one of the monks picks up the lady, carries her across the river, sets her down at the end of the river, says goodbye, have a nice day, and the two monks go walking. About a mile down the road, monk number one, the one who didn't carry the lady, has been stewing in his mind the whole time. He's been thinking about all the laws they broke by touching a woman to help her across the lake or river or whatever it is. And he's been stewing about this, and he turns over to the other guy in like a angry voice, and he's like, hey, do you realize how many monk laws you broke by helping that lady across the river? And he turns to him, and he says, yeah, but the difference between you and me is you've been carrying her this entire time in your mind. I left her at the other side of the river. And what happens is we carry this stuff in our mind, and we stew on it, and we ruminate on it, and we chew on it, and we spew it to other people, and we can't let it go. And the secret to letting things go is to just let them be. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to overanalyze it. Don't try to figure out where it came from. Is that going to do any good? Did it ever figure it out? Did it ever help anyone knowing why they became an alcoholic? I don't think so. I was obsessed with it. I had to figure out why I was an alcoholic. And instead, I just accepted, hey, I'm an alcoholic. What now? I have these thoughts. What now? Thanks for sharing. Next. That was another thing that I learned. I went to AA for about 90 days after I got sober because they told me to do this, and I would do whatever they wanted. If they said wear a clown hat to help you get sober, I would wear a clown hat. And so I went to the AA meetings, and one of the most important things that I realized in AA was the fact that I could stand up and I could share my experience or my sadness or my grief or something I'm pissed off about. And then when I'm done, everyone goes, thanks for sharing, next. They didn't discuss it. They didn't try to fix it. They didn't try anything. And what I realized is when people didn't give me the bait that I wanted, like I wanted everyone to be like, oh my God, Mark, are you kidding? Let's stop this AA meeting right now because Marcus's problem is so important that we need to just call an assembly about Marcus's great problem. No, that's not what happened. That's what I wanted to happen. That's what happened throughout my entire life. And that's why I kept going. It's like, okay, this is keep going. I got all this stuff. But when I realized, hey, no one really gives a shit. That was the most freeing thing in life. Hey, no one really gives a shit. No one knows these thoughts in my head except me. It doesn't really matter. They'll go away on their own. I don't have to fight them. One of the worst things I ever heard when I used to be a preacher in church was when the pastor, he was sweaty and like this crazy guy, and he's like, take every thought captive and wrestle with your thoughts because we're not wrestling with flesh and blood thoughts. We're wrestling with the devil. And it's like, do you really think the devil's there telling you to lock the door 3 times? I would think he'd tell you not to lock it so he could come in or whatever he does. I don't know, right? Yeah. And we look at it and it's like, it's all just a bunch of bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. Thoughts are just chemical impulses in the brain. You know this. If you're an alcoholic, you know this more than anyone else because when you drink, you get more thoughts. When you drink coffee, the thoughts go crazier. When you watch certain things, like there have been Facebook, I think is I don't like Facebook. There, I said it. But I think it does a lot of bad for our society because it gets in our brain. And on my Facebook feed, in the business community, there's certain people of a certain political persuasion, and they talk about certain things. And certain things bother me. I don't like them. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I just go to Facebook because I want to make money on it. That's what I do. Or I check the Talk Sober group or whatever. But the more I inadvertently consume this content, the more I obsess about what that content's about, even though I claim I don't care about it. Why? Because it gets in your mind. I guarantee right now, if you're in America, you're probably thinking about the election more than you thought you ever would. Is it because you're like a political junkie? Is it because... No, it's just because it's what's going on. It's what's called the collective consciousness, right? In societies, you have a collective consciousness where people's thoughts start to mold and share things, right? This is why it's powerful when a bunch of alcoholics talk together, because we have a collective consciousness that we all understand. And the more you listen to these talks, the more you consume content from people that is actually helpful, the more you're going to think about it. And there's one of my favorite books is the favorite book I have just because of the title. And it's called My Voice Will Go With You, or My Words Will Go With You. And I like that because how many of you guys have listened to us for a while and throughout the day you're like driving your car and you're like, hey, I remember Terry said this thing about his car and, or whatever. And you think about it and it actually becomes part of your thought life and it changes things for maybe a brief moment. You want to change it for a long time? Deliberately brainwash yourself with what you want to think about. This is powerful. You can actually deliberately brainwash yourself. And I remember I was against brainwashing. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I went into rehab. And the guy's there, and this dude's like an old hippie burnout who's been sober for years, and he's a scholar, which was good because I thought I was really smart. And he's like, yeah, I taught 5 languages in Germany while teaching philosophy in 5 languages. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know nothing. And this guy sits there and he says, my goal in rehab is to brainwash you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you from the KGB? What the hell's the matter with you? Are they watching me? There's cameras somewhere. He's like, no, I just want to change the way you think. And it's like, okay, let's roll with that. Let's see where it goes. And over the next several years, in rehab, I learned to brainwash myself how not to drink. Out of rehab, I learned to brainwash myself because I needed a good washing. in the brain with certain things I wanted to think about. And now I'm the product of that. It was deliberate, and you can change it. Any thoughts on that, Terry?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's basically what you just said. I had to do the same thing. I had to change my entire mindset when I got sober, and I had to learn a new way of life. They told me the old adage is the only thing you have to change is everything. And, I thought that was everything. Like what I do. I don't get to ride my bicycle anymore. I don't get to go on hikes. No, no, no. It's change everything about your thought process. And that was to stop being dishonest. I started to get honest, especially with myself. That was the first thing, or one of the first things. The other thing was understanding that I'm an alcoholic. I have this obsession, and that I don't have to act on it, and I have to be willing, and I have to do whatever it's going to take to stay sober. And those are the sort of things that I had to do. So I became honest and willing. I accepted the fact that I was an alcoholic. And those were huge. And from there, I was able to blossom and start to live a good life. I was able to take care of those things that I had destroyed in the past. But it was a slow process. But it all came from changing my mindset to begin with, getting that sober mindset. I think somebody earlier, what did they say? Alcohol. Oh boy, what? I don't think alcohol is an alcohol there. Oh, I don't think somebody has an alcoholic personality. And yeah, I'd agree with you, but I did have an alcoholic personality when I was drinking. I was obsessed about everything. I was obsessed about alcohol. If I was able to stop drugs quite a few years before, but if they had shown up, I probably would have done those. I was addicted to more. If I was to order a pizza when I was drinking, it doesn't matter the size, I would have ate the whole thing. I was just obsessed. I had this personality of I want more. And since then, I've learned how to deal with that. I still want more. I still want to eat that whole pizza, but I have control now, and
I ate a
I'm
whole
able
last
to,
week.
I'm able to do things more in moderation now. And, it's really helpful to be able to be that way. Just living this positive life. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. But,
Absolutely. Couple of things. I think it was. Let's see. Where'd it go? Someone said they need a good brainwashing, and I think that's absolutely true. And another guy was talking about being adverse to the idea. He says, "I also have resistance to this brainwash idea." Well, here's the deal: you're brainwashed right now. It's just not working for you. Right? Like we're all brainwashed. We all have different ideas in our brain that have been put in there by whatever it is. There have been studies shown where people watch certain news programs and it changes their personality, changes their thoughts, changes the way they think about everything. Actually, there's a good documentary about the guy who started Fox News. He actually was consuming the content that they were putting out so much that he became a paranoid, crazy person at the end. It's interesting because you're like, oh, okay, here's this guy who like basically purports this message. Then he drinks his own Kool-Aid and becomes like this nut job, which is kind of interesting. So the fact of the matter is we're brainwashed anyway. And when I got sober, before I got sober, I thought I had all the answers, although I was struggling. I thought I knew everything the Bible said. I used to be a preacher. I knew all this stuff. I thought I knew everything about business and the economy and politics. And I would fight people with my ideas. And I thought, hey, I know everything. And when I got sober, I think the biggest breakthrough happened when I would sit there at night after rehab and listen to talks, and I'd realize that I don't know anything. Like, I don't really know what truth is. I know some things. Like, I know I know I don't want to hurt people, and I don't want to hurt myself, and I don't want to drink anymore, and I don't want to feel a certain way. I knew some certain things, but there were other things I had to admit to myself that I don't know. And I find a big freedom in the I don't know. Because I don't know. I am one guy out of 8 billion people on planet Earth. There are far more people who have learned way more than me. And if we take all of everything we know it's still a tiny fraction of all the knowledge that's out there in the universe. And I had to submit to my fact that I don't know. And I had to submit to myself that I have been indoctrinated by my society, right? You wonder why they make you do the Pledge of Allegiance every day. It's because they want you to have certain feelings about your country. Whether you think this is good or bad is not the point. The point is, it happened. There are other countries where they play movies and they say, oh, this is the way things should be. These are the people that are bad. These are the people that are good. And what happens is you're being indoctrinated. And throughout our life, throughout our world, we've been indoctrinated. Go to school, go to work, go to college, do this. This is what means happy. If you have a certain emblem on your car, you have arrived. If you have money in the bank, you have arrived. If you are a drug addict, but you keep your shit together, you're kind of cool. Not really, because being an addict sucks, I know from experience. But there's certain things that we have been indoctrinated to. And I think what needs to happen is we need to come to a realization of everything I thought I knew brought me to be a drunken mess. That's it. That's the product, right? Like, I'm about results. I want results. I want to feel a certain way. I want to live a certain way. I want to respond and behave in the world in a certain way. And when we look at it, how did being right work for you? And being right, we use the term loosely because I found out everything I was right about before I got sober. I pretty much disagree with myself now. I would have kicked my own butt back then if I met me now. And I realized that, hey, it's all indoctrination. And I also realized, hey, I could be indoctrinated now. But I like a little bit of the result because I'm sober. So that part's good. That's the result I wanted. So that's good. People could disagree. They could agree. But the fact of the matter is we have to get to a point of humility and saying, I have no idea. I don't know. Someone comes, oh, what do you think about this politics? I'm not a politician. You want to know what I think about the internet? I work on the internet. I could probably teach you a little bit about that. Not everything, but some. Right? And the humility of not having to have everything all together, not having to be perfect, not having to do this stuff is mind-blowingly freeing. And if you guys do think you need a brainwashing, over at talksober.com, me and Terry are putting together a course for you. It's about 3/4 the way done, I think. And what it's designed to do is to give you the new thoughts. Like, I guarantee if you listen to this, it'll start to change the way you think. If you start listening to this and learning things, even if you've been sober for a while or you're just trying to get sober, this will help you because you go in here, click the yellow button, you sign up. It's like $27 a month. It helps support the channel and everything, and that's at talksober.com. And the idea is to take you through the aha moments and the changes of brain that I had and Terry had when it comes to sobriety. Yes, that.
Yes. Sorry. Thanks, Derek. Thanks for the love, man. You always give me a little compassion when he blocks me off. I appreciate that.
I'll do it again. You'll get more compassion.
That's right.
So there you go. You can go to talksober.com, click the big yellow button like this. You can actually support the channel and get all the tools and stuff we've made to help you get and stay sober. You just fill this out. It'll email you with a password and a username. Make sure you check your spam because sometimes, for some reason, it thinks it's spam. I don't know why. But just check it and it'll give you all the stuff. Also, one of the new things we are doing, we'll do it again this week, we did it last week, is we are allowing you guys, if you want to have a one-on-one phone call with Terry and I just to talk about sobriety or whatever it is you want to talk about, you could actually click on support our work, and you can put in a donation to the channel of any amount, and we'll have a call with you. So if you think that's pretty cool, you're like, Marcus, I'm totally broke. I only got $5. You could do that. We'll get on the call with you. If you're like, Marcus, I love what you guys are doing. I'll make the thing really happy and give you guys, I think it maxes out at $500. But you can go in there and you can help us out and get a call with me and Terry. We'll hop on the line. We'll talk about sobriety, everything like that. And of course, if you ever need support or need to contact us, just use product support or check out our Facebook group. And that's all at talksober.com. The end of the commercial.
Good job. You know, Marcus was talking about the social media and Facebook and stuff, and you know, that's one place where I can practice not acting on my obsessive compulsive disorders. I have a ton of political comments and comments about, I'm a dog owner, so I have lots of dog friends, and comments about this guy's dog was not on a leash, this guy da 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 da, all these things, and there's all sorts of negativity on social media. And what I do, I use social media for. I like Facebook. For one of the reasons is I have family in Chicago that really I probably would have no idea what their life is all about if I didn't see them on Facebook, and we comment to each other and we can talk, and old friends that I haven't seen in 20 years, we've become friends again. And it's a really cool thing that way. And the other thing is I don't have to click on those political posts. I don't have to read that article. They make them so that I really want to, but but I don't have to, and I don't have to look at them. I can scroll right past them. My friends that keep on obsessing about these political things, or about the dog walker that has 14 dogs, which I agree. I think that's too many dogs to be walking at once. But whatever, I can scroll past that, and I can just let it go, and it's a good practice for letting it go. And when I post things, I try to post positive things. I do let people know when something's sad, like when my dog died, or when my mother died a year and a half ago, and I keep people notified about that, I guess. And that's just part of what we were talking about earlier, is just processing your feelings, and not being ashamed of them. And that's why I do post those things, and just the fact that life happens, and there's things that affect us positively and negatively, and it's okay. That's what I've learned in sobriety, is that emotions are fine. It's okay to be sad. Being mad can be destructive for an alcoholic, so I try not to get upset about things. But if I do, I talk about it with somebody, and that's really important for me.
Absolutely. And I think we got about 20 minutes left. If you guys have questions or comments or any pressing things about drinking or OCD or anything like that. And again, I did put the link in the chat box, so you can go over to talksober.com, see all the stuff we have for you. Lots of good stuff. Again, Terry and I are not trained addiction specialists or doctors or anything like that. If you are detoxing, always see a doctor. And if you're looking for mindset stuff, I think if you join the recovery class, you'll find it a breath of fresh air. And if you listen to it enough and really, really take it to heart, I think you'll go throughout your day in a different way, starting to understand that you can get and stay sober, starting to understand that you don't need to fight all these things you thought you had to fight. You just need to let them be and understand that, hey, this is how our mind works. Very, very important there.
Yeah. I mean, that's life. When I first got sober, one of the biggest things for me to get used to was the fact that my life really isn't that exciting, if that makes any sense. But
very much, yeah.
It was like I got sober. Then what am I going to do now? I have all this time, and I'm not changing the world. I'm not that important. But actually, I was important to some people, and to my dog. But I was. And, it was just accepting that, and living a responsible life. My first job out of sobriety, it was handed to me because somebody heard, and they knew that I was a good worker before, and I got offered this little part-time job, and it was perfect. And it was great. But, it was really hard to get used to, just kind of, some people may look at it as I had this mundane life when I got sober. I thought it was awesome. I was free. Before, when I was drinking, I had to deal with getting alcohol, hiding it. I've already said all this today, but all the stuff involved in staying drunk, that was just crazy. And then I get sober, and I can go on hikes. I can go to the supermarket at 11 o'clock at night and do my full shopping trip. Not that that's very exciting, but hey, that freedom was just incredible that I had. And going into the shelter in place order that we had in our state, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure most of the countries and states had similar things, but going into that, I felt a little bit of the same thing. I was like, okay, here I am at home. What am I going to do? I don't know what to do. There's got to be more. And I think that was the first time in quite a while I was like, I want more. I don't think I didn't really have a craving for alcohol, but it was this feeling that there's got to be more. But then I just thought, no, it's okay. It's all good. I can figure out things to do around here. We're still allowed to go outside. We're just not allowed to get into groups. So I could go hike. I can do all those things I like to do. I just can't do it with a bunch of friends. And then as I started to accept it, then I was okay. And that was part of that brainwashing, just being in that acceptance.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very important thing to realize is that it is a mental addiction. It is a mental problem that we need to really get our way out of. We need to change the way we think and change the way we feel and everything like that. A lot of people are saying that Thursday is their favorite day because of this talk. That's good. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
If you guys do want, we are debating with the idea, once we get enough people in our online recovery class, we are debating with the idea of picking up another day throughout the week. I don't know if it'll be private or public, not sure yet. But if you guys do want to be part of that, you can support the channel as well over at talksober.com. And then Tardigrade says he's got a bunch of questions, but he thinks they're a little too personal. If that's the case, just go over to talksober.com, click on support our work, and any amount of donation works. I think $5 is the minimum you can do because otherwise the credit card company gets it all. So you could do that, and then you can have a call with us and ask your questions in a private manner and get some info on that. So really cool. Yes, if you guys do want us to add more talks throughout the week, Terry and I do both work full time, and we work quite a bit. We are trying to do this channel to where Terry can be full time and I can take a little bit of a break from my other business. If you do want to support that and really help us get our message off the ground and add some more talks throughout the week, just go there, click the yellow button, sign up. This is till the class is done. Once it's done, it will be $67 a month. So if you sign up now, it's $27 a month for as long as you're a member, even if we raise the price later, which is pretty cool. And we're adding new stuff there all the time, which is great. All right, Tardigrade. Yeah, good to have you there. Glad you're a member.
Right on.
And if you're a member and you need a call, just ask us. We'll try to help you as much as we can, within reason, of course. Cool. So any other questions, let us know. Yep. Cool. And what day would you guys like if we did add another day?
Oh, boy, we're going to get lots of...
We're going to get a lot of them. I know they probably wouldn't want, like, Friday or Wednesday because it's, they probably want, like, space it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Unless you guys are, into hearing us all the time. I don't know. Maybe.
Gareth says, Marcus, you were trained. You went through it and didn't just read a book about addiction. I would rather listen to you than someone with a degree in I learn it from a book. And that's a good point. That's a good point as far as getting into recovery. I do think it is very important to be in contact with other recovered alcoholics or drug addicts, whatever. But it's important because they know things from a personal experience, and you guys can relate in a way that perhaps a non-addict can. I mean, and you tend talking to a recovered alcoholic they tend not to judge as much, where trained professionals, they're trained to not judge as well. However, with that being said, it's very important for a person, especially when they're trying to get sober, to seek out professional help. First of all, because alcohol withdrawal is deadly, but second of all, they know they've had training, and they've had training on how alcohol physically affects the brain, and they've had training on the chemical things and all of the medicines that might be needed for withdrawal or for recovery and things like that. They can also identify if there's other problems other than just alcohol, where just a recovered alcoholic is just talking from experience. And me, I haven't had any training. I mean, I I can see a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody, man, you got other issues. But that's just my opinion, not my medical professional knowledge. And
Mm.
so I think it's important to use both.
Yeah. Tony, this is Tony from Hayward, Bay Area. We know where that is. Just
Yep.
to let you know, you guys rock. You guys have been helping me a lot. 11 days clean. Congrats on 11 days, and we're glad you're
Right on,
here.
Tony.
And yeah, we got quite a few Bay Area people. I used to live sort of in the Bay Area. Now I'm in Florida, and Terry's still over there. How's those fires?
Actually, they're gaining quite a bit of control in their containment. I think they're up to 30%. And usually when they get about to that level, that's a good sign. And the key is that there's no big wind events coming and no big heat ups. It is going to warm up, but it's still fairly smoky. They still have the old spare the air going on where you're not supposed to um, have a fire in your fireplace or mow the lawn, but who's going to have a fire in their fireplace? But,
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to waste much
Uh,
gas nowadays. But,
Doug from Auburn. I know where Auburn is. We used to visit there all the time.
yep.
Let's see. Gareth says, I have an addiction to opiate tablets, not heroin, but I'm an addict all the same. Yeah, addict is an addict is an addict. The only difference is the way that the chemical behaves in your body. All detox is dangerous and can be deadly. Always go to a doctor when detoxing. And, learn to control your mind or let your mind be so that you can get through all this stuff.
Tardigrade says my therapist now has never had any addiction issues, but he is my best therapist. And that is absolutely can be the case. Definitely. They're trained professionals. And a lot of them have a lot of experience with dealing with addicts, and they've had a lot of schooling. So, yes, absolutely. I'm not knocking on them at all.
No, definitely good stuff. You just have to, a lot of times in life, you take the advice of others and you learn what you need to do. Like I knew, okay, I got to get sober. And I had some therapists who were like, nah, it's not an alcohol problem. And, that's a really, really difficult thing.
I never did a lot of therapy, but a little bit here and there. But it was not effective for me. But the reason it wasn't effective is because I wasn't truthful. So that's, I think, is a huge thing. Well, the biggest thing is you got to be honest. A person, they can't help you if you're not honest about what you're going through and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Always be honest. And there's really no reason to not be honest. I mean, they're not going to care. There's tons of other addicts and people that deal with the same thing. And you just got to realize, hey, you know what? It's not that big a deal. I mean, it is for you, but in the grand scheme of like all the other addicts, it's just another addict. It's all about the substance. It's all about the way your mind works. And you can learn to get and stay sober. Rob says, I've listened every day and I'm at day 55. Congrats. Not being hungover allows me to take on new projects like affiliate marketing. Awesome. Glad you're learning that.
Right on. Good job, Rob.
David says, if I learn how to forgive, life will be much, much easier for me. Well, forgiving is about understanding where people are getting the things that they do to you. Like if you're trying to forgive someone for something they've done to you, realize, hey, in their makeup, in the way that their life worked, they thought what they did was okay. Doesn't make it okay. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it any less harmful being done to you. But it does allow us to be like, okay, well, that's just what happens. That's the way they are. It's nothing personal. One of the things that helped me was coming to grips with some abuse I dealt with, was realizing that it wasn't personal. If there was another person there, it would have happened to them.
Right.
It wasn't singled out. The universe wasn't like, we're going to pick this guy who was born right here and we're going to screw him up, No, it's just, hey, it happens. That's what happens. And I'm part of it. And there's other people that are part of it too. And it's not personal. It's just what is. And once we accept that, everything changes.
Yeah.
Derek, glad to have you signed up. He said he just signed up. Glad to have you in there, supporting the channel. Awesome. Cool.
Right on.
Looks like you got a call, so we'll set you up with a call.
Cool.
I think that's you. I can't tell. My eyes are too old to see over there.
On that forgiveness subject, For me, definitely putting the first thing I usually have to do is try to put myself into their shoes and see where they're coming from. But I also have to look at what I may have done and be honest with myself about what I may have done to cause this person to do this. Sometimes I did nothing. Sometimes it just happened to me or whatever. And another thing is with forgiveness, sometimes it just takes time, and it's just that simple. It took me a couple of years to forgive one person, and that was what I would call a justifiable resentment, where he did something to me and I did nothing to cause it. And it took me a couple of years. But, a couple of years down the road, I was able to shake his hand and not beat him up and sit and talk with him. And that was okay. Am I his best friend? No. And do I hang out with him? No. But I'm able to go on with my life, and he's no longer spending time in my brain as far as obsessing about how angry I am at him. So sometimes it just takes time.
David says, I blame myself for drinking too much. Well, yes, do blame yourself, but to a point, because there's a point when you get to be an alcoholic and the alcoholic is drinking because it doesn't know a better way. Like, if anyone consumed as much alcohol as I did, they would drink as much as I did, and they'd become an alcoholic the way I did. Like, that's just a fact of the way that it works. And so if I spend all my time blaming myself for drinking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to produce these feelings of guilt and shame, which are not going to help me. They're going to make me feel guilty. They're going to make me drink more. I'm going to stew over what I did. But once I stand up and I accept the fact that drinking brought me where I'm at, and this is the way it is, then I can move forward. But if I continue to blame oh my God, why did I drink? Why did I drink? You drank because you're an alcoholic. I did too. Terry did too. Next. Right? Once we stop it there, instead of trying to stew over what's wrong with us or what happened or why is this happening or where's my big flaw, what we're doing is we're relying on willpower. Willpower doesn't help us get sober because we are active in our addiction. What helps us get sober is a plan of action. Not a plan of feeling bad, not a plan of, like Doug says, beating ourselves up, a plan of what am I going to do? Okay, when I feel like drinking, what am I going to do? Not how am I going to feel, because we've been led by our feelings way too much, and now we feel like drinking all the time, which is why we do. But if we say, hey, you know what? This is what it is. This is what it is. I can't change the past, but I can move forward. I can move forward. And the best thing to do, instead of being guilty or having shame or dealing with all this stuff over why or how or what caused you to drink, instead, create a life you don't have to drink over. Create a life. Say, today, I'm going to make a life that makes me not have to drink anymore. Yeah. And that doesn't have to do with feeling guilty or feeling this or feeling that. Right? So we got to focus. Dracula, did you have a question? I'm not sure if I saw your question.
He's responding to Gareth's up there. I'm not sure what Dracula said earlier. So, anyways, yeah, I'm not sure.
Cool deal, guys. I think we're almost out of time. Again, you can go over to talksober.com, right like this, talksober.com. Click on the yellow button if you want to join our online recovery class. If you want to schedule a call with Terry and I, you can talk about whatever you're going through. Click on support our work. Any size donation will get you a call, and we'll go through whatever it is you need to go through. That is limited. Obviously, we can't do that forever because, obviously, we don't have time to do that forever. But you can join the recovery class, get a whole bunch of MP3s, PDFs. Terry's worked on videos and worksheets and all kinds of stuff. It's like an online school for getting sober, which is pretty cool. And you can get that there over at talksober.com. That also helps support the channel. Again, our goal is to reach lots of alcoholics, help them with the message of strength, and help share what we've been going through and what we can help you guys with and everything like that. And if you do like what we're doing, help support it, and we'll go from there.
Right on. Thank you, everybody.
Right. And Derek says, hit the like button. Yes, hit that like button. All right, thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you next Thursday. Again, if you do want to help us add another day, just go into the course, and we'll see if we can add another day there once we get enough people, and take it from there.
Right on.
All
Good to
right.
see everybody.
Stay sober. See you next week.